49. The last president inaugurated in the United States. The span of terrible days after the global comms blackout when the world was reshaped. The number of strange supernatural phenomena that appear around the globe. You're listening to The 49, the new series by Andrew Kooman. Get the content right in your inbox when you subscribe at the49.substack.com. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Welcome to the world of The 49.
Is God beaten out of his own world? The question appeared on Diez's mind, like the letters of a chyron on the lower third of a screen. The world below looked like the scene from a newscast through the rectangular window of the air transport. Thin cotton balls of cloud stretched and pulled apart beneath him as the hovercraft flew west. The ground below told a story that few survived to remember. Protest, online outrage, inflation and recession, social unrest and personal distress, political upheaval, tech innovations, increased convenience, increased disparity, increased surveillance, terrorism, government overreach, militias, crackdowns, street warfare, blackout. It was all so predictable, inevitable, with so much nuance in between. The headlines that played out so factually in his mind, each with 100 stories, with 1,000 angles. This was just one little corner of the world, the scale and immensity of the human drama and personal tragedy that unfolded below clouds, just like this, all over the world, in a short span of time, weighed on Diez. He could only take hold of a small piece of it, and that overwhelmed him. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord sitting on a throne, high and lofty, and the hem of his robe filled the temple. The words from the prophet Isaiah's ancient vision dropped into Diez's mind. What? It was the governor. Diez had laughed into the mouthpiece of his headset, and the sound of it had been broadcast onto the transit's comms. We're just so small, Diez said. After a moment, he looked over at the governor, who was staring at him. The governor nodded. The world couldn't contain the enormity of God. All that suffering, the whole history of humanity, and all its petty, magnificent feats could fit in the pocket of his robe. Diez turned back and looked out the window again. They flew fast. They had already cleared the wide range of the Rockies. The mountains, from their altitude, looked like the fossilized jawline of an ancient beast. The distant peaks like so many lethal teeth. They dropped into the warmer air, jettisoning toward the rainforests of the coast, over rivers fed by the same glaciers that once covered the ancient jaw of the Rockies and 1,000 lakes. In every successive age, when it has seemed for a while as though God were beaten out of his own world, and black and impenetrable darkness had completely overpowered the light that has only been the false vision of men and women who have not been able to enclose the divine horizon at one glance. Somewhere or other, although it may not have been discernible to the ordinary vision, the light has still been burning. What's that? The governor asked. Scripture? No, Diez said. A preacher whose sermons I love. A farm boy who became a great orator. The governor looked out the window. His silence suggested to Diez that he was listening. He had a pulpit in Britain during the Second World War, and his preachings helped a lot of people. I memorized a few of his homilies, word for word, some time ago. And is he some sort of role model for you in your role? You could say that. And you draw parallels between his time and ours? Diez turned to the governor at the question. The man met his eyes, and he couldn't tell if he was riling him or actually curious. The scar on his cheek was wrinkled by his smile. He traveled to Wales to witness the famous revival there firsthand. Diez dodged. Many compare the Foz now to what happened there. Oh, the governor responded, his surprise clear in Diez's ear. If you really are interested in how they work and what they are, you should start there. You can still find the book online. I had it printed and have studied it closely. Do you really think there is a historic pattern, that this has happened before? The question had the flavor of suspicion, maybe incredulity, maybe disdain. It didn't faze Diez. I do, but I understand your caution. He felt the same things at different times. How could events like the Foz not have dominated news coverage of the last centuries? The governor spoke over the comms. He looked out the window, as the aircraft made a sudden drop in altitude. They were starting their descent toward the ground. They would be at their landing spot soon. Diez laughed again. "What?" the governor asked. "You of all people are asking why the media covers what it covers, or hides what it hides." "Touché." "This preacher," Diez said after a beat. His name was Morgan. He traveled to Wales to check out the revival and wrote about it in one of England's most widely circulated newspapers at the time. Everyone was interested in it. People traveled to the Wales Foz from all over the world. What did he say? That it was legit. He went with a newsman who went to report on the facts. They were like a tag team. One gave a reporter's perspective. One gave his spiritual insights. It's a fascinating read. "Is history repeating itself?" the governor asked. "I guess we'll see." Diez pressed his cheek against the glass to look at an emerald lake that shone like a diamond in the sunday. "Who's the reporter in this scenario?" "I'm definitely not one to give spiritual insights," the governor said. "Don't sell yourself short," Diez replied. Diez stretched out his legs and took a sip of coffee from the disposable cup that he'd placed in the cup holder of his seat. "They've always moved, these Foz. The Welsh revival that I just mentioned had its birth in the U.S. in the 1852nd. It jumped the Atlantic and moved to Wales. Then it spread to England. As people like Morgan visited and shared about it, and word spread, it moved." "So, people spread it by word of mouth?" the governor asked. "Number. It moves on its own, but word spreads and people go." "And it can cross bodies of water?" "Sure," Diez responded. The coffee was still warm. He wanted more. "But don't think of it as a physical transport. It's spiritual. It appears where it appears. It does what it will do. If this is a Foz, it could definitely easily move from the island we're visiting to the mainland and vice versa. That could explain why our satellites suggest it's been jumping across the water," the governor mused. "How will you know it's real?" "You just know," Diez said. He turned away from the window toward the governor. He didn't roll his eyes, but he probably wanted to. "It used to infuriate me too when people said that. I had to go see it myself. They were right." Diez recalled some of the early research he did when he prepared to cover the Foz that were appearing before the blackout. There was so much internet chatter, so many videos, such a wide witness to these supernatural phenomena. But still, he doubted. Who could blame him? Anyone, for doubt, especially of the supernatural. In a time of deep fakes and cheap fakes, when anyone could create video content that would travel the world before it was debunked as AI animation, caution was his modus operandi. As a journalist, it had to be. 10 new conspiracy theories seemed to be launched every day before breakfast, and much of the time he spent as a reporter was simply sorting through the subterfuge. He went down the rabbit hole, and one place he landed was in the reporting of the Welsh revival. Stories and descriptions that were appearing in chat rooms echoed the stories and descriptions people told over 200 years ago across the ocean. Some who went to see the revival that broke out in Wales said that the government opened up the trains, ran them all night, so people could go. Some people, even before they were in the area where the church services would happen, would fall under its way, almost unconscious, on the rail, as they traveled toward it. "Good thing this aircraft is under the control of a robot." "What I was thinking," Diez laughed. "So, if you pass out under, what the weight of glory before we land will know it's the real thing." "Something like that," Diez said. Some never felt it at all. They went, observed the services taking place, listened to all the same words and teachings and songs, but they left just as they came, unaffected, unaltered. "How strange." "Indeed," Diez said. "They come like the wind and vanish just the same, mysteriously. Those who resist them may never again feel so potent a call to a higher life." He kept those words to himself, but he wondered if he should have said them aloud. They were Campbell's words, from his reporting on the revival he first experienced at Silcoats Hall near Wakefield in the 1852nd when he was just a boy, before it fell again, more than 40 years later, to stun the world when he was an aging man. "We'll touch down on San Juan Island, All our scans show there's been no activity there for a few days. How far is San Juan from Victoria? Diez asked. About 12 miles. I hope you brought your swimsuit. Funny, we have a small boat. It has an outboard motor, but we don't have anything gas-powered. So we also have a pair of rows, in case the falls knocks out the power systems. So, what, you and I are just going to row our way to shore? Diez instinctively moved his head side to side to crack his neck as though warming up, already, for the crossing and the physical feat it would be. You, not me. Too good to row? Diez asked, ribbing the governor, but surprised nonetheless. The governor blushed. The team won't let me go. They're sending you alone. I'd hoped an elder from your Masquatchees would come, but since none did, you'll go alone, first, to see what you see. The canary down the mine shaft. I see. My powers of persuasion only go so far. My board was adamant. And here, I thought we'd finally have some alone time, Diez said. It was silly of me to think otherwise, so I go. We wait. We see. My team has put together a pack with gear, supplies of food, fire starters, a hunting knife, seasonally appropriate clothing, everything you'll need to survive for a few days. A droid appeared with the bag. Diez took it and unzipped the main compartment. It was lightweight, well packed. My team tells me you've done long stints in the woods anyway, Kananaskis. Diez stopped examining the gear and looked at the governor in surprise. God's country, he said. What does he know about that? He thought. If it's the Foz, you'll be fine, the governor said, as the aircraft slowed. They were landing. And if it's not? Diez asked. The governor sat back in his chair and signaled for the droid to leave the compartment. Then we'll come find you.
Thanks for listening to this portion of The 49 by Andrew Kooman. New content drops for paid subscribers every Monday at the49.substack.com. That's the49.substack.com. On Tuesdays, we release new audio on all your favorite podcast platforms. If you like what you're hearing, make sure you subscribe and to share it with a friend. Thanks for listening to The 49.